Welcome back to No Kings on the Hill. I'm Dr. Hill Law, and here with my co-host, Joe St. Clair. And this week is a good reminder that when it comes to domestic policy, government accountability, and global stability, it all boils down to the same things: leadership, oversight, and consequences. And also a real quick Happy New Year's. Hope you're enjoying the last day and that you've got your New Year's resolutions intact and ready for this next year and have a great year. So for this week, we learned that billions of dollars of taxpayer money that were intended to be tended to help the most vulnerable among us instead were stolen, squandered, or otherwise abused in the broad daylight of open government. At the same time, we also are seeing renewed diplomatic efforts between President Trump and Ukraine, a potential breakthrough on Israel and the Palestinians, and increased tensions in the Pacific. Now, from welfare fraud in Minnesota to HUD waste in all 50 states of $5.8 billion to high stakes diplomacy with world leaders and rising tensions between China and Taiwan, it's not a question of if these things are connected. It's a question of who is actually being held accountable. Now, I'm going to go ahead and have a word from our sponsors, and then we will get back to the show.
Heard of Q Broadcast? It's taking the world by storm. People are cutting the cord to their high cable bills and moving away from streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and others for something better. Q Broadcast. For just $60 a month, you'll get access to every channel you could ever want, including HBO, Cinemax, and Starz. And the best part? There are no contracts, no hidden fees, and you're free to cancel anytime. With Q Broadcast, you can enjoy streaming live TV, movies, and top series on up to 5 devices at once. Whether you're at home or on the go, Q Broadcast makes sure your entertainment is always at your fingertips. Imagine being able to watch all your favorite channels from anywhere, anytime, without any restrictions. We're talking about thousands of movies, hundreds of TV series, and a huge library of live channels, all in one place. And don't forget video on demand and pay-per-view events. Those are included at no extra cost, so you'll never miss a big event again. Now, take a second and think about your current cable bill. You're probably paying anywhere between $100 and $300 every month, locked into long-term contracts and hit with surprise rate increases. With Q Broadcast, that's a thing of the past. It's just $60 a month. No contracts, no extra fees, no hidden costs, and no price hikes. Why juggle multiple subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, and cable when Q Broadcast gives you everything you need in one convenient package? People everywhere are switching to Q Broadcast, saving money and getting more content than ever before. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and sign up for Q Broadcast today. Just $60 a month, no contracts, no hidden fees. It's time to take control of your entertainment and start streaming smarter.
All right. Now, for about a week now or so, investigative reporter Nick Shirley has been shining a spotlight on something that many Americans suspected to be true, but few fully realized. The state of Minnesota became the epicenter for at least $8 billion in welfare and daycare fraud. There wasn't accidental oversight or human errors. This was a lax enforcement, shell companies, programs that have never been audited, and billions sent out the door. This wasn't theoretical money. This was money intended to feed children, support families, assist working parents, and a whole lot more, taken at an entirely unacceptable scale. And here's the worst part. Warning signs had been raised, oversight caution had been given, and accountability is happening now, months later, and only after the fraud was large enough and broad enough to be entirely undeniable. Contrast that to what the federal government found recently during the final year of President Biden's first term. HUD recovered $5.8 billion in waste and fraud throughout all the 50 states. It wasn't just in one area of the country. It wasn't just in one part of a given state. It was throughout the federal system, riddled with a lack of basic stewardship. It was red states and blue states. It was a system that neglected to do its job. And when fraud is normalized and accountability is a suggestion, confidence in government erodes entirely. As all of this is coming to light here at home, President Donald Trump is again making moves on the world stage. Last week, he had a meeting with Volodymyr Zelenskyy at Mar-a-Lago to discuss the future of the Ukraine war and the potential of what an endgame might look like. He also had a sit-down with Benjamin Netanyahu as Israel continues to face threats and pressures in the region from Iranian-backed entities, along with meeting the second part of the peace deal signed earlier this year. But while those talks are going on, there's another separate and potentially much more consequential flashpoint growing in the background. China and Taiwan military saber rattling in the Taiwan Strait is only continuing to build up. Economic leverage, naval buildups, and diplomatic signaling are all ratcheting up, and the window for miscalculation is narrowing rapidly. So here's the commonality between all of this. A nation that cannot rein in fraud at home, a government that cannot properly manage taxpayer dollars, is a nation that broadcasts weakness to the rest of the world. Fiscal responsibility is not just about budgets. It's about having credibility. Oversight is not just red tape. It's about national security. Now, obviously, we don't want too much red tape, but we've got to have a balance there, because too much red tape, it slows everything down. Too little red tape, we get what we've seen in Minnesota and then what's starting to uncover in California, and it's in the 20 and 30, 40, 50, $70 billion range. Honestly, I think by the time the Trump administration gets done exposing this stuff, we're looking in the trillions of dollars. So tonight, we're going to connect these dots between these domestic catastrophes and foreign policy choices made by the executive branch. We're going to explore why accountability is important, no matter your political party. And we're going to see what happens when citizens start finally ask questions. Where did the money go, and who was allowed to let it happen? Because on No Kings on the Hill, power is accountable to the people, not to the other way around. Now, I'm going to go ahead and move over to our first set. So we're going to look at a couple videos here. We're going to start with the Nick Shirley video. And then after that, we'll go and look at some of the other videos and just kind of go through. We're not going to watch this whole video. It's 42 minutes. We'll watch a couple points of it where it just really shows the blatant fraud and just that there's no way they couldn't have known this. And then we'll go ahead and discuss kind of the two-state why the solution that President Trump posed for Israel is not a two-state solution. We'll go over what we think what's going to happen in the Israeli ones, and then go from there. Oh, is my mic not working?
No, you're good. You're coming through loud and clear for me.
Okay, I thought I saw 3 messages, so that's why I was wondering.
I don't see any messages. You might be getting texted. They might need to check their audio.
Oh no, it was you. It was right. That was earlier. Okay,
that was earlier.
All right, so now let me go ahead and we'll go through this video. I'll get a couple places in it, but let's just start with the beginning here.
Hello, we'd like to ask where the money's going. What do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
I don't think anybody is enabling fraud to happen.
Hold Governor Walz accountable for this.
What was this money spent on? 1.26 million. What was that money spent on? There aren't any kids.
Answer the question. Are there children? There's no children inside this building. Potentially the largest fraud scandal in U.S. history is taking place in Minnesota, as literally billions of dollars have been funneled through Somali-ran fraudulent businesses. So much fraud, it could actually almost replace the entire GDP of Somalia. These fraudsters have worked hand in hand with the Minnesota government as they enabled billions of dollars to be given to fraudulent businesses underneath welfare purposes. Some of this money eventually landed in the hands of terrorist groups in Somalia, like the Al-Shabaab, and others enriched themselves all at the U.S. taxpayers' expense. And in this video, we will break down all of the fraud from start to finish, from going to the fraudulent businesses and confronting the people who are making millions of dollars from the government. And we will also be confronting the incompetent government leaders who let this fraud happen. And to make this happen, I met up with a man who's been doing his own investigation for years now, as he has seen the fraud firsthand. His name is David. Let's get into this and be prepared to be shocked.
Now, I want to say something. A lot of people are trying to say, oh, this is fake information. No, what David did is he went and he found the daycare names, their information, and he requested through a process that the state of Minnesota has to get the information of what all this money is reported. I've heard people now claiming, oh, they were closed or whatever. Well, if they are closed or out of business, then why were they shown getting money for this whole last year? Explain that. It's just not. Yeah.
How deep is this fraud here inside of Minnesota?
It is far worse than anybody can imagine. You heard it's 7 to 10 billion and maybe more. And now the numbers have been revised and put out there publicly that they think it's more like 8 billion. How I got involved is that where my office is here in Minneapolis, I'm sort of in the heart of all of this fraud. And I would see these childcare centers. I said, well, there aren't any kids there. It's the middle of the day. and all I see are a couple of guys standing out front smoking. And then I'd go by another daycare and I'd see the same thing. I said, well, where do these kids play? And so I started to go online and look, and I said, this place is licensed for 80 children. They had 0 children. Every time I went by there, they never had a single child there. Then I started to see all these transportation companies going around, and it was always a Somali driver. And I said, well, that's great. They're out there transportation contributing, but they never had a passenger, never, ever once. And I said, well, what is all this transportation? What are they doing? So then I found out that in Minnesota, they have something called non-emergency medical transportation. So this is going to the dentist's office, therapy, whatever it might be. And I said, well, how many of these companies are there? And the research came back that there are 1,020 of them, and more than 800 of them are Somali owned. Nobody from the state of Minnesota ever cross-checks to see if any rides were ever actually provided. All they did was write the check.
So right here, we have all this paperwork. And how are you getting all this information about the fraud?
A lot of it is through my own research. And then I have some contacts at the Capitol going back many, many years. And so the data that I'm getting is 100% accurate, coming directly from research done by people at the state Capitol.
All this paperwork right here, what are we looking at?
The areas of fraud that I have numbers for are mostly related to childcare. This is massive fraud that is beyond anyone's imagination, the scope. And so, for example, there's a childcare not far from here in Minneapolis that has two childcares listed at the same address. And together, they're licensed supposedly for 120 children. I have never seen a single child there ever. And I've been by that place at least 100 times.
These Somalians, these groups are setting up these daycares.
Okay, now I'm going to go skip through here a minute. And we're going to look at some of these daycares. Now, if any of y'all are parents, if any of y'all have kids, then y'all know what a normal daycare looks like. Like the most famous one that was supposed to be called Quality Learning Center, but it was called Quality Learning Center because they couldn't even spell learning right. And they didn't fix it until finally the news came up. But that daycare right there, it doesn't even look like it's big enough to even hold the kids they say they do. And there was no kids in it. And then they claim their hours are 2 to 10. I don't know about anybody else, but I have never seen a daycare that is open from 2 to 10. After school care, yes, but not daycares. Daycare is open somewhere between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m.
Well,
period.
just to be clear, the hours were changed within the last 48 hours. So they changed their operating hours from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. to 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. And if you Google it, you can see there's a bunch of reporting on this already, because essentially there's like a lag window where you can actually see the previous times, and many people have already archived it.
Oh yeah, or the fact that they claimed that they were closed, but yet they were still receiving credits during that time, and it's like that. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's fraud, and I'm not going to show it on here today because I closed out the websites and forgot to pull them up. I think I might be able to pull them up later in a PDF file, but I don't have my shares. And that was looking at, if you look at the maps that show the amount of credits per county, the average credits per county out of 80 some odd counties is 255 children, right? The Hennepin County, which is one of the main counties that this investigation is going on, has 40 times the number of the rest of the counties. Now, understand, yes, it is highly more populated. The majority of the population of all of Minnesota, which is like 5.4, 5.7 million, 3.4 million of that is within the metropolitan area of St. Paul, Minneapolis, Minnesota. But still, they're also the highest income areas. And so to have 40 times the other counties, which are the lower income counties, which have a whole lot lower average income or closer to the poverty level, it's blatant, outright. There's just no way you can't see the fraud. I mean, if you're ignoring it, you're blind, stupid, ignorant, or you don't care.
I mean, too, we know that it's going to be very interesting looking at the backward analysis on this fraud scheme, because for an area to be so saturated with the same services over and over and over again, it's obviously unnatural. It's completely manipulated. And where else in the United States do you walk and you see buildings full of daycare centers? It's not a thing.
Well, no, you don't have that many kids in an area. You're like, okay, in the state of Texas, I would say you see a daycare, you might see the amount of daycares that they went to that day in that area, you might see that in a 20, 30, 40-mile radius. And yeah. I'm talking in Dallas, Fort Worth, which has a larger population than all of Minnesota.
Yeah.
And we don't have daycares that are on top of daycares, on top of daycares, on top of daycares. They're still spread out 2.5, 3, 4, or 5 miles each because there's not that many children there. At that age, they're going to the daycare. Kids that are in daycare, you don't want to be taken. You want to be, don't want to be so saturated that you're not getting any business. So again, it doesn't make any sense because I'm in Dallas Fort Worth area. Dallas Fort Worth is close to 7 or 8 million now, which is more than the whole population of Minnesota. So if we don't have daycares, if we don't have 6 daycares within a building or within a mile of each other, why would a smaller state with less people have that?
Yeah. And I wonder, hopefully this wakes the American people up to the fact that when you have the government and you have these contracting processes, how easy fraud really is. I saw this in the military. There's companies out there that get these huge contracts and they say they're doing XYZ amount of work, and then they just pencil whip everything. I saw that. I was a translator in the Air Force. I saw our language vendors doing this. So this, again, to me, it also highlights the fact that we really do not need or want the government providing us these services in the first place, because when you have the private sector doing it, it's not sustainable. And ultimately, who's paying for this? This is, Minnesota. And I think we discussed the other day when we were chatting that the federal government's matching funding, right?
Well, yeah.
So we're all being defrauded.
The majority of it's federal funding. The state just has to match a certain percentage, but the majority of it's federal. It's a federal program, federal funding that the state has to match a small percentage of, and then they're in charge of monitoring it. But let's go ahead and get here to what they're showing here.
We're going to a place called Mako Child Care, which actually has another child care registered at the same address called Mini Child Care Center.
So we should see lots of children if there's this child care center, especially if there's 2.
The 2 of them combined are licensed for 120.
And how much money have these child care centers received?
None of those vans have moved in 6 months. None of them. In 2020, one of them received $1.3 million. In 2021, they got $987,000. In 2022, they got $714,000. That's the last I have for that one. And then the other one, $1.604 million in fiscal year 2025. Fiscal year 2024, they got about $800,000, and in fiscal year 2023, they got $904,059. This place right here. Yes.
We're outside of it.
Now think of those amounts, people. Okay, these kids, like they said, these daycares are 70 and 90 children. All right, that's insane. That means every child they have there is getting 100% credits, roughly. And you're telling me in a county, Hennepin County, where the average annual income is $92,641, that there is over 10,000, which is what they're claiming 10,641 child care credits in that county. That there's that many children, that every child at that daycare is low income. It's not possible. It's a statistical improbability. It's so far of an outlier that if you were doing math or any type of analytics, they would be like, there's something wrong with this equation.
Honestly, I also want to say kudos to this guy. His name is Dave. This dude's a straight patriot. He did the research. He saw what was happening around himself. And I can't imagine the level of gaslighting that he went through up to this point, because I know he reached out to the Minnesota state government over the years, and they essentially did nothing. And then now the reaction on the left is gaslighting. They're changing the hours on Google. I saw a video today where one of the daycares said that they were broken into last night and all their enrollment documents were stolen. And It's just, you have to look. This goes again to the quality of immigrant that we want to bring to the United States. Somalia is known for fraud. It's the piracy capital of the world. So are we surprised when that culture is imported here and nothing's done? These people did not go through the traditional process, and this is great example of what happens when you just import, masses of people with zero accountability.
Oh yeah, and there's also there's another breaking story today that shows that there was millions in Minnesota dollars to living care fraud and living care facilities. And then I was trying to find the reply I made to the post, but I guess I never did do it. Is this lady, and I think it was in Minnesota, passed a law that will pretty make it near impossible to get a lot of the information from the Somali people. Because the thing, or from the businesses, because the thing is I've heard Governor Walz say, "Oh, this is about white supremacy. It's about racism." No, this has nothing to do with Somalians or attacking Somalians. This just has to do with exposing fraud, and it just happens to be happening in a Somali community. And then if 99, 98, 90% of the fraud is happening in that community, then you have to ask yourself, why is it so prevalent in that community? I mean, I honestly believe when this comes all down, this is going to spread across states in other communities where Obama had flown all these Somali groups in back during his first and second term. I have a feeling that this is going to end up being a fraud ring that ends up being bigger than the American mafia was at their pinnacle in the early mid 1900s.
Yeah, I think if anyone's ever dealt with a fraudster, Nick Shirley, he's a fantastic reporter. If you guys don't follow him. He does great reporting. He went to Paris, France, and he was around the Eiffel Tower where there's a group of people called the Gypsies, where they regularly scam and steal from Western tourists. And it was so funny because when he was approached by a group of women who were trying to pickpocket him and trying to scam him, he called them out and they started accusing him of sexual assault and violence against them. So this is, okay, I'm going to commit fraud. You're going to catch me. And instead of me admitting to it, I'm shifting the conversation. You're a racist. You're a white supremacist. No, that shows that they're guilty. And I'm sorry. And honestly, this administration has to do something about this, because this cannot stand. Governor Walz needs to be held accountable directly, because it happened under his watch, and he most likely is going to be implicated.
Okay, so where was I'm trying to find this post, but yeah, it was crazy that this lady was trying to submit a bill. I don't know if it was in Minnesota or if it was at the federal level, trying to protect to keep information from going out. But I'm going to go ahead and play a little more of this.
Well, this is actually 2 daycares are registered here. One of them is Mako, which you see on this sign. The other one is Mini Child Care Center. And between the two of these child care centers, they're pulling in about $3 million a year. And there are no children. Every facility as you go to, the windows will be blocked out so you can't see in. There's nobody here. You won't see a single child at any of these facilities.
There are indeed no windows. All the windows are blacked out right here. All right, let's go in.
Any mothers or fathers that are in this room today, have you ever gone to a child's daycare with all the windows blacked out? I doubt there's one person in here can tell me that they've done that, because I've been to multiple daycares, looked at daycares for my child, and the windows were never blacked out. They might have little pictures hanging that the kids have made, but you can still see in them. Now, obviously, the door being locked, that's normal. All the doors are locked in the entryway. They have a little buzzard where a little camera so they can check your ID, or a PIN code if you're a parent that you can push the pin to get in. And then they let you, if you want to get in to check prices, they let you into the little area in the center, and then you can go in there and they'll give you information. They might tell you that they can't give you a tour that day because they don't have the people to do it, or the manager that gives them is not there, or busy teaching a class, and that you need to register a time to come back and tour the facility. But they will give you papers and documents and information that you can start filling out the application, where you submit it to, how you do it, what the rates are, all of that. They would never just turn you away, and anybody, like Joe was saying earlier, is anybody who sits there and gets PO'd or pissed off because somebody comes at you and says, "Hey, what about this fraud?" Any red blood red-blooded tax-paying American should be offended by people using fraud and stealing money or taking advantage and doing better in business by using the government when other people are struggling. If they're an honest business, you shouldn't like it. You shouldn't want it. You shouldn't support it, period. So if you're a legitimate business, you shouldn't be getting mad because somebody's exposing fraud.
I mean, what legitimate business also blacks out its windows? I mean, I know it's a daycare and daycares don't do it, but if I were in an area or a neighborhood and all the businesses had blacked out windows, I would probably assume it was a seedy area.
I don't know how many people are in here are Horns fans, but we just got our third interception against Michigan.
And the child care center is locked. Should we ring the doorbell? Try to get in, rang the doorbell. Nobody showed up. They're open 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. It says here on their sign, yet there's absolutely nobody here. And this building here, right here, has generated millions of dollars, and it seems like business isn't even open right now, and it's a weekday. And if this was a daycare center, it wouldn't just be in some industrialized building. There would be maybe like a playground or something outside. Or
There's no play area for the kids. So where are the
Well, and here's another problem with that building. I wish I had pulled this building up on a Google one. Now, I have seen daycares where they're in like a shopping center or something and aren't in like a more house built one with the playground outside and stuff, but they still have windows all around them. They're not bricked. They're windows, and then they will have a playground on the inside. They have taller roofs that are like 10, 12 feet tall, and they'll have like an inside like McDonald's Play Center or something in them. I have seen that. But this building, to bring in the millions of dollars a year in credits that it's claiming that it's getting, it doesn't have the square footage, because I don't know about Minnesota, but I know in Texas, you have to have like 100 and almost 100, 200 square foot per child of space.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that Nick used he said it generates money. This is not generating money. This is absorbing money. This is money laundering. This is them absorbing.
Well, they're claiming that they generated that type of income is what he's meaning it by. It's not that they're generating.
Even then, it's a grant. It's not. It wouldn't be income, right? We know.
Yeah,
that.
but still, that's the easiest way people understand it, though. I mean, he's just doing it the way.
And maybe it's just the buildings. Maybe the buildings identify as bigger buildings, right? That's what the Democrats. I don't know.
Well, but I mean, that building is not big enough to house that many children. It doesn't have a playground area, and it's in the middle of an industrial park. And the majority of daycares are near neighborhoods, not industrial parks. I mean, yeah.
kids? Where's anybody? How can there be nobody here? And it's in fiscal year 2025, $1,042,059. In fiscal year 2024, $1,059,078, and in fiscal year 2023, $727,336.
this next one is literally 1 block away, and this one's also generated.
That's my point. You're not going to find 2 daycares a block away, especially not generating that type of profit income, even if you didn't have the credits and it was all cash. I mean, let me see. Okay, so if you're looking at, let's say an average of, let's say you've got 90 kids times, I don't know, let's say about 1865 a week times 52 weeks. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so you got 90 kids times 1865. All right, times 52 weeks. Yeah, I mean, that's a good percentage of their money, and that's if they're all 1,800. I mean, I don't know what the average price is there, but let's say it's 865 times, I think this one's 70 kids. That's 60,550 a week if they're all there every day, all day for the hours. And then multiply that times, they're not going to be there 52 weeks. So let's say 45 weeks, that's barely over $2 million. So yeah, I mean, they're literally saying 100% of the money is going all to those kids. 100% of their income is pretty much coming. They would have to have, out of the 70 or 90 kids, they'd have to be charging over to get the million, they'd have to be at 800 or more per child per week. They'd have to be there all 52 weeks, 40 hours a week, because that's how those credits break down. And then they would have to turn around and be spending those. They'd have to be there 52 weeks a year. It's ridiculous.
Nearly $3 million in the past 3 years. Let's see if there's any children. Let's see if any of the buildings are open. Here we go. All right, we've arrived to ABC Learning Center. All the windows are blacked out. Let's see if anybody is here. This door is locked.
This facility is licensed for 40 children. 0 children. I've come by this place 100 times. I've never seen a child here, ever. The only thing I've ever seen is someone standing outside smoking.
What's crazy about this is that last daycare center is that green building right there. And the other daycare center right now is right here. These buildings should be operating as they're receiving literally millions of dollars. I knocked on the door, and to my surprise, somebody actually answered the door. Hello? Can we speak? I would like to check a child in the daycare. Why? Can I speak to a manager? Where can I get paperwork to file for my son? I wanted to put my son Joey in daycare. And after a few questions, the lady went silent. Looks like little Joey Shirley ain't going to daycare here. And now where are we going?
Now we're going to Sweet Angel Childcare.
We're in the middle of a strip mall here inside of this neighborhood.
In fiscal year 2025, this facility, which says it's licensed for 74 kids, was paid $1.26 million in tax money. And there are no kids, and all the facilities are the same way, all of them.
Let's see if anyone opens.
Yeah, let's see.
Once again, I try to find a spot for my son Joey, and they would not open the door. I want to put my son Joey in daycare.
I'm trying to find the spot on this one where they actually talk to the
Paid
guy.
1.26 kids right here. Kids there. What's up?
If I can put my son Joey, put your kid here. You said you're mad.
Not good. Here? No. Does anybody?
There's no children anywhere.
Understand?
He started following us around the city.
I was
And
trying
now
to
we're being
find the
followed by
area.
Somalis. This is another daycare center. Absolutely no signage, and there's no footprints in the snow of children playing outside. $5 million within the past
5.9
2.
million in 2 years. 5.9 million they received in 2 years. That facility right there.
And now we have a group of Somalis telling us in our vehicle right now. From this daycare center, we headed over to the infamous Quality Learning Center, which actually spells Quality Leering Center on the outside of their sign. That's how blatant this fraud is here at this.
Now, this one, they've actually changed. They've actually finally fixed their sign. I think even attempted to change the phone number.
This daycare. Don't open up. So this is Quality Leering Center. I meant to say Quality Learning Center.
Don't open
They
up.
said they spelt learning wrong.
Don't open up.
How do you have ice here, ma'am? I'm literally a YouTuber.
Don't open up.
Ma'am, what do you think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
Don't open up. We have ice.
And what do you think about this place being licensed for 99 children?
Okay, yeah. So a 23-year-old white guy, a 50-some-odd-year-old or 60-some-odd-year-old white guy in gray hair with a vest on, and a 20-year-old black dude in a suit that's behind the camera right now, and 2 security guards in all blue parkas. Yeah, they're really ice.
I mean, look at the woman screaming it. I hate to say it, but she looks very affluent. Look at how she's dressed. She's been shopping. I mean, she looks like she's had a very, very privileged life. And to me, if we allow this to continue, I don't know what working American will actually buy into the system, right? Because when you're working your butt off and you're trying to make ends meet, I mean, obviously, like I think his name is Dave. He's a business owner. And then you see this going on, I'm afraid that if you know the Dems take if they win the midterms and God forbid the presidency next time, what this is going to signal to everyone operating under this system is that the fraud money, like the fraud gun's back on, and this is going to spread like a wildfire. Everyone's going to want to get theirs, and that's exactly what happened at the collapse of Rome. Was you had the bureaucrats and aristocrats taking basically acting as parasites on the overall system, and it led to its collapse.
Well,
But-
actually, if I can't get the one Texas congressional member for District 35, the new district that's drawn in, to come on our show for interview, I am going to try to get Eddie to let me get to interview the guy he's working with in Texas. I can't remember his name now, but here, I want to play this because this section right here, and I agree with you, these midterms are so important, it's unreal. But I want to play this little part where he actually talks to somebody who's American that lives in the area, and just listen to what they say.
Place here in Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm with Nick Shirley.
This lady, she's calling us ICE. We're just trying to put law and order back in the streets of the United States. Get rid of all the fraud. Have you ever seen children at that daycare center right there?
Where?
Yeah, it's right there. It says the child. You've never seen daycare.
I haven't seen anybody in here.
We're going to educate you on something. So what do you think about this daycare center? They spelled learning wrong. They've received over $1.9 million this year alone, and they're supposed to have 99 children here.
I don't see it.
99 children.
Have you ever seen any children here?
None. Not at all. None.
This year they got 1.9 million. Last year they got 1.5 million of your tax money for 99 children. We just want to know, where are the kids?
Right.
Where are the children?
I don't see them. I've been here since 2017. I haven't seen anybody like
Never
that
seen
here.
a child here.
Nope. Not at all.
And so you've
8
never
years.
seen a child here for 8 years?
Nope. Not at all.
Key word is he's not a MAGA reporter. He's a journalist, and this guy is a random person that just walked up that lives there. And he said he's been there since 2017. And anybody that goes, oh, President Trump was a president in 2017, doesn't matter. This is state level, not federal level. You have to catch the state level. It has to be caught. It's their jobs to manage. It's really the state's job to manage these programs. Only when it gets this bad does it really get to the federal government's levels. But I mean, this guy said he's been there for 8 years and he has never seen any kids in there. And even recently, when they ran the day that they tried to fix their sign and start throwing kids in there, it was like 20 kids. And it's like, you're supposed to have 99, not 20.
I think too, it's important to say, yeah, it might have been happening during Trump's first administration, but you have to remember, when he came into office, he was immediately lambasted and attacked on every single legal. His Department of Justice didn't have time to look into fraud within the states, right? They were busy fighting every single battle that got raised over Russiagate, over the various impeachments that occurred. So, I mean, this is why you can't have the federal government or any kind of government weaponized to help people or to hurt people. And it just goes to say, like, we do not want the centralization of power, right? And we don't want it at state level. We don't want it at the federal level, federal government level. And what's happening in Minnesota, what's happening in California, these are prototypes for the entire country.
Yeah, it's a microcosm of what Democrats want to do to the whole U.S. And now the thing is there's been shows that the corruption and the fraud in California is somewhere near 70 billion. So you start adding this up. I still honestly, truly believe that by the end of President Trump's term, especially if we win the midterms and we can keep control of the House and the Senate, that the fraud over the last decade will be somewhere near $1 or $2 trillion between welfare, the transportation, like the whole welfare system, the whole government grant system, housing, HUD. I mean, because they just discovered now the HUD, the 5.8 billion in HUD throughout the whole system, which the whole system and Section 8 and stuff for like HUD gets, I think it's 43.8 billion a year. So 5.8 is a really small amount of it. It's a really small portion. And probably the majority of that 30,000 things throughout the states were people that just slipped through the cracks. Death certificates didn't get reported correctly. People didn't, it wasn't, but probably the majority of it wasn't blatant outright fraud. It was mismanagement, waste, and it wasn't straight out fraud and abuse. It was people making mistakes, not paying attention, stuff like that is what I think is where that HUD money came from.
This is why I always say, like, I like to help people. I want to help people. I don't want kids to go hungry, but allow me to be charitable. I don't want the government forcing my tax dollars to go into these programs, is this is exactly what happens. And we see this in the international level with foreign aid too, right? When we funnel money into Somalia, when we funnel into Afghanistan, when we funnel it into, Congo, who's taking the money? It's warlords, and I have zero doubt that that's like they're also emulating that here, right? I wonder. Elhan Omar, she made $3 million. She's net worth $3 million now in a very, very short period of time. So again, and I said this to you the other day. The reason that they're okay with this is that and the reason that the political class and the left, the ideologues, they're okay with this is because they view our society, our culture, our state as being a benefactor of slavery, of war, as though we've stolen and robbed for the entire world. But that was something that every single population, every single culture, every single people did to one another. And there's something to say the fact that our culture produced, humanism. It illegalized slavery, blatant slavery at least. And then they believe that it's okay for these people to rob us because our ancestors robbed them. But it's not even true, because if you look at the majority of Americans, like their heritage, they come from immigrants, Italian immigrants, German immigrants, Irish immigrants. And I think most Americans know that they're not the benefactors. They're not the people who benefit from this. So why is it the case that it's because these people are tokens, right? They're being brought in, given money to supplant, we all know that's what's occurring, to supplant the actual domestic population, because they'll continue voting in favor of these policies.
Okay.
And Pandora's box.
Yeah, I'm not against the system, federal welfare and stuff like that. What I'm against is creating a system of dependency where there's no side of time limit. It's not set up to help people actually get better their education, better their job training, get a better job, and actually get out of poverty. That's where my issue is. And also my issue is if you look at Texas, the fraud, while we might have some waste here, it's nowhere near any of the other states. And it's like, we aren't a highly regulated state, but we have enough regulation that you're not going to be able to sit there and gyp us for millions of dollars for child care credits through the daycare systems because of the checks and balances they have between the parents, the daycare, and the state, and how they have to approve attendance and they have to verify attendance and everything to actually get that money. And so there's ways to do it without it being too overly burdened to where and it's funny because in like Minnesota and stuff, you go try to build a building or develop something or open a business, the regulations and the red tape are out the wazoos. But when it comes to giving out taxpayer money, there's no regulations at all. And that's the problem, is they have too much regulation on business, people creating businesses and building businesses and all of that, but they don't have any regulation at all on federal money funds going out. They just want to give it. They don't care. It's like they don't care because they want to buy votes. They want to grow votes. That's all they care about is, if these people are getting free money, then they're going to come to us. If we keep them dependent, they're going to come vote for us. And that's literally that's all they care about. But let's get off of this one. I was going to get on to the one that we kind of talked about the other night. I tried to get you on there last night to cover it, but I had some people asking about it because let's talk about Israel. And everybody was saying, they got on the thing that, Israel, we're paying for their Medicaid. We're actually sending them money for medical care service, which we're not. It's a $3.8 billion a year. It goes strictly to military. They're having to pay it back. It's on a loan or a grant. And then 500 million of that goes to the Iron Dome. The rest of it goes to other military services. So, and then also I wanted to go through everybody was saying that, Trump, proposed a two-state solution. Well, no, he didn't. So the Trump peace plan wasn't a two-state solution. It was a security-first, sovereignty-first framework built around reality instead of wishful thinking. And that's exactly why it was supported by Netanyahu and attacked by the global bureaucracy. Now, who was at the table? It's a framework built for President Trump's administration and rolled out publicly in January 2020 with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu standing next to him. But unlikely every administration before him, Trump didn't start with UN talking points. He started with security realities on the ground. So this is, we just finally got the peace deal done, and this is coming from President Trump's 2020. So no, it wasn't Biden. Okay, so this map here, this map 1 shows the status quo as it is today. Israel, the West Bank, Gaza, the major Israeli population centers. And this map is significant because it shows why the old 1967 border fantasy has never worked. Israeli cities and settlements aren't theoretical, they're real, they're populated, and they're where they are for a reason. So here's the talking point. If a plan ignored that map, it was never going to be a serious plan to start with. So now if we look at section map 2, this is the traditional two-state solution, all right? The one peddled by the UN and previous U.S. administrations. Israel's back to near 67 borders. East Jerusalem is now a Palestinian capital, and the Jordan Valley is no longer an Israeli security concern. Trump explicitly rejected that map. Why? Because it leaves Israel indefensible, and it just hands a victory trophy to decades of failed Palestinian leadership. And you can look at how it does that, because this is all, it gives one, the Jerusalem capital gives half of, breaks up Jerusalem, takes the valley away, and does a bunch of other stuff. And this is your Palestinian state. This is Israel, and it breaks half of their stuff, leaves them no defensible on the other sides. So that's the map 3. Now, this is the Trump plan. All right. So map 3 is where the Trump plan diverged. Map 3 shows Israel's sovereignty under the Trump framework. Israel retains Jerusalem as its undivided capital city, keeps the major settlement blocks, and maintains security control over the Jordan Valley. That's not symbolic, that's survival. So pretty much it's not a true state. It's not a true state. They have no weapons, no military, no protection of self. Israel still has fully control over that. And they get this little area right here. And they get those little red spots right there and they're connected by, you'll see here in a minute how they connect. But the little red marks are where Palestine is. Jordan Valley stays under Israel's control. These are United Jerusalem, the populated cities, and the rest of the dark blue is Israel. So now I'll go to map 4. Now this is a conditional Palestine entity. So that you see there's tunnel and bridges that connect the Palestine throughout and all of this. So what it does is the Palestinians were offered not a traditional state, but a demilitarized conditional entity, disconnected territories linked by infrastructure, tunnels, and bridges, but no army, no airspace, and no independent borders. Statehood was earned, not granted. And so we go to the final map, which is map 5. Map 5 shows why this wasn't a two-state solution in the classic sense. Israel has overall security authority. Palestinian leadership has to recognize Israel, renounce terrorism, and demonstrate governance capacity before anything else happens. That's the opposite of every failed peace process we've seen. So no, the Trump peace plan was not a two-state solution. It was a security-first, sovereignty-first framework built around reality instead of wishful thinking. And that's precisely why it was supported by Netanyahu and attacked by the global bureaucracy. And say that again. And so, as you can see, there's no army in in certain areas. They keep control of the airspace, and they keep control of the Israeli border control. So they're not having to worry about their security controls from Jordan or Egypt or on the north, whatchamacallit's on the north. Trying to think of the country on the north. It doesn't show it on here.
Lebanon.
But yeah.
Yeah, Lebanon and then Jordan and then
Yeah,
Syria.
that's right, Lebanon. Yeah, and Syria. And so that's why they never, because somebody was like, oh, President Trump proposed a two-state solution. No, he didn't. It's not a true, they're not getting a true state. If you don't have your own military, your own, because people forget it's a state solution in the fact of like America. Okay. Texas and Georgia, we don't get our own militaries per se, because even our National Guard are still part of the American military. So we don't get our own, and we don't have borders separate as far as like country-wise from the United States. So in that way, I guess you could say it's a two-state solution. The fact that Israel would be the main governing body like the United States is, and Gaza and the Palestinians would be more like a state or counties or cities. But in the aspect of what people will think of as what an actual state is considered over in the European unions or in that the European continent or the South Asian continent, is a state is an actual country, not what we think of as a state today here in the United States. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused, is they think state, they think within a country, but no, it's its own country over there.
Well, what this harkens back to for me in terms of, similar structures or state structures would be maybe the UK, where you have, it was the English who essentially created their hegemony over the British Isles. And obviously they weren't able to fully integrate Ireland, but Northern Ireland joined, but they don't have their own army. And Scotland doesn't have its own airspace or military, but, it's considered a sovereign. I think this is all like semantics, right? I think at the end of the day, I think that what Trump is doing is what you said is true. He's looking at the very real terms on the ground, and he's trying to come up with a pragmatic solution, which, I can't say whether or not it will go well or not. I do know that as far as the two, cultures are concerned, Palestinians have it in Islam. They're taught they're descended from Ishmael, and, Israelis are taught that they're descended from, Israel. So I don't see this as I see this as pragmatic. I don't know if it'll overcome that history, and
but I think a lot of the issue that we don't see here, and this is what I talked about last night, is what people understand is what actually happens there and what we see are two total different things, especially in a area like Palestinian controlled areas or Gaza Hamas controlled areas, who are anti-Western, anti-Israel, anti-everything, and they are terrorists. They're the type of people that would kill their own people just to make somebody else look like they're killing somebody. And there have been proof that they were actually the ones doing it, not the IDF. And so, without knowing the full truth, I think if they can get Hamas ended and out of there, and it was just the Palestinian people, I think the majority of the Palestinian people are peaceful and just want to peacefully live there. And I think it's Hamas who's the one that's really fighting for a two-state solution per se, or a militarized, because if you give, and this is why Israel never do it, is if you were to give Palestine or Hamas their own country where they could actually become a state or a country in that aspect and actually start making arms deals and getting a hold of high-end technological weapons, as soon as they would be quiet and maybe not mess with Israel for a couple of years, but then they would build that up and then they would just attack. I mean, that's the problem, is because they teach death to Israel, death to America, death to Israel, just because they are a proxy of Iran. And
so I would also say that was also the argument made with, Israeli-Egyptian relations, Israeli-Jordanian relations in the past, but time has proven that those states have met in a middle ground, and now on some level they're allies. So I can't predict the future. I do know that there are Orthodox Jews in Israel that have significant power, and they'd like to rebuild the temple, which would involve destruction of the Golden Dome, or what was it called? The Golden Dome Mosque, right? I believe. I can't remember.
I don't know what it is, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. They'd have to destroy the mosque because that's where the original Jewish temple was. Yeah.
My main concern is with the United States. I'm not pro-Palestine, anti-Palestine, pro-Israel, anti-Israel. I do look at Netanyahu as a extremely, I would say, Machiavellian maneuvering character, and that's been good for Israel and that's been bad for Israel. But even when you saw him strike Iran after Trump told him not to, I really do hope that if this agreement is put in place, that perhaps cooler heads come into power in the future. Because I do notice that, across these regimes, it seems to be Netanyahu, Putin's been in power for 30 years, Netanyahu's been in power for close to 30 years. And it's like, hopefully once these people come and go, we'll see. I know I think differently than the generation before me. And I think that probably that's the case. I know that's the case in Iran as well, because the successors to the Ayatollah are looking more and more liberal and moderate. So who
Yeah.
knows? Maybe time will heal. Time heals
Yeah,
all,
but
like they say, right?
and yeah, the person in the comments goes, Egypt was offered to Gaza in 1948 and several other times over 40 years, and Egypt has said no. So that tells you even the Arab world does not want to put up with the PLO and Hamas, and that a lot
Well,
of people already. A
that
lot of
they're right there, but that's also due to the fact that the original the Palestinians that exist today were essentially, might call them illegal immigrants from Jordan and Lebanon. They didn't actually reside. There's a couple settlements, but they didn't reside and come into the area until the Jewish communities.
well,
in the
that's what a lot of
19th
people
century.
argue is that's what a lot of people argue is the Palestinians really aren't Palestinians. They never had a country, that they never were official people, and that's I know that's some of the arguments there.
I
But
almost think that's a good parallel to United States and Europe, bringing in these masses of immigrants. The reason Egypt and these other countries don't want this population is because it's like they have no human capital. They've not been educated. They have not been trained. And these states know that this is going to be a net drain on their societies. That's why they don't want them. And they've fought tooth and nail for 40 years against this. And yet Europe and the United States is just doing the opposite.
well, not the United States isn't doing as
collaboratively.
bad as Europe is. Europe is still trying to push a full two-state solution and destroy what President Trump is trying to do, where Trump is just trying to say to end the war, saying, hey, we'll give you this like your own little cities and stuff that are Palestine government run, but you still answer to the Israeli government. Like you like at a mayor or governor level, like a state governor, equal to our if thinking our level of government, more like a governor level. Not you're not going to have a Palestinian prime minister or Palestinian president and have a seat at the UN or have a seat at the at NATO. They're going to be they would be like equal to one of the states within inside the United States, where Israel's still over all protection, all security, all of that. And also, I don't know if you noticed yesterday, but I was surprised. I guess Ayatollahs must be losing grip, because I guess it was that the cash or the economy in Iran collapsed, and there were actually a bunch of protests going on, and they were actually being allowed, because usually when protests start happening in Iran, you start seeing people get killed. Well, you don't see it, but people get taken out, killed, hung, whatever. I mean, because they still do. Iran still does public hangings. They do them from freaking cranes or lifts. I mean, it's.
Well, I mean, that was kind of what I was alluding to before, because my area of concentration when I worked in military intelligence was Afghanistan, and I spoke Farsi Dari. So I also, studied Iran. And I think overall, the number one game changer in Afghanistan, the Taliban is still a brutal regime, but they have liberalized, and they will make examples out of a few people. But the truth is, when we invaded in 2001, they wouldn't allow the internet. But during the war, in order to facilitate their ability to conduct counterinsurgency, they had access to cell phones, and they became addicted to the technology, and it kind of opened up their society. So, I think that's what's going on with Iran. I think, just even the United States, if you analyze like in terms of the older generation versus Gen Z, the shift on LGBT, like it's something the older generation might be 50-50, but now it's like 80-20. So I think that's also going on in Iran. And I'm an optimist. I try to be optimistic. I know that in media, it benefits to be bombastic and say the world is going to end, everything's going to be terrible. But the truth is things are getting better, and there's less wars. And I credit Trump to Trump to some extent, because he has shown we're willing to go to war. And that's actually what saves you from going to war.
Oh, I had that debate in my TikTok live last night. I was like, I could probably speed up my views a whole lot faster by allowing people to come in here and call people names and cuss at each other and yelling at each other and being all like that and stuff. But I'm like, that's not me. I was like, I used to be that way when I was younger. I said, but as I've gotten older, and also as I've gotten more intelligent, I've gotten more educated and stuff, I've learned to not let my emotions control me. I've learned to, the majority of the time, no matter what I say, I am not going to change somebody's mind. I'm just not. No matter how many receipts I show them, how much proof I show them that what I'm saying is the truth, they're going to believe what they want to believe. So getting all angry and yelling and screaming and getting my heart rate up and trying to have a heart attack makes no sense. It's like staying even tone, kill. I mean, I try to inflect my voice a little bit so it's not like a robot, but it's like, why am I going to be all, I'm not, because when I go into those rooms where everybody's yelling, and it's like you can't even learn anything or get anything across to actually have a logical or intelligent debate. Because if everybody's just yelling and crossing across each other, then people are saying stuff and you're not even hearing what they're saying. And it's like, obviously that's what people for some reason want or sell, but it takes longer to get views doing that way. But I'd rather do it the truth. And I try to, and with like Israel, I'm kind of neutral. I mean, I understand Eddie's view on Israel, and he doesn't have a problem with like Israelis or the Jewish people. He has a problem with the Israeli government. He has a problem with Netanyahu and the IDF and their version of the CIA and stuff. Mossad is what he has an issue with.
I think he's probably correct on that. I would say so as well. And I see, just like in the United States, we have competing interest groups and agencies within our own country that are vying for power and greater access to finances. I see that within Israel. And I do think, I don't want to even say the name of the organization. I think that their intelligence agency is largely pulling the strings of their government. And it's not, I can't say it's a free society because of that. And that's in the same way that, yes, Saudi Arabia is our ally, but the Saudi king is murdering journalists. If I could, I would disconnect myself from that regime. And as an American, I hope that our leaders end up doing that. I don't want to be allied with tyrants or people murdering journalists or enslaving other people,
Yeah, but unfortunately, sometimes being a ally or at least aligned with is better than being enemies with. Because the old saying, keep your enemies close. I mean, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Because
and it goes to what you were talking about there, where you said if you talk to somebody and you tell them you're wrong, it's like an object in motion, right? I'll use my Zen, going like this. They both fall on the wayside, right? But an object in motion, you go like this, you shoot the trajectory off to the side. So it's really better when you're engaging someone to tell them, find your common points and then slowly correct them and try to get them to see your point of view by finding like a place of common ground.
Yeah,
I think that's what we do with Saudi Arabia, and I think they're also liberalizing, right?
Yeah.
10 years ago, it was illegal for women to drive. So
yeah, and that's also, I think, like everybody on the left is like, oh, President Trump's Putin's puppet because he won't insult Putin. He won't call him names. And I'm thinking, okay, Putin doesn't have to stop this war. He doesn't need to stop this war. He's got the money. He's got the people. What benefit does it do, especially Putin, who is an alpha male, who, if you insult him or degrade him, is going on national stage, is going to come back, or is not going to talk to you, is not going to work to you, because he's going to have to show the rest of the people in his country that he's strong. Now, when you're face to face and it's just you and one of that person, then yeah, you could call him a name if you want, as long as there's no cameras there. You could say you're being a tyrant or a dictator or an asshole or whatever. As long as there's not a camera there, it's going to put it out in the media that other people can see, because then it's just two alpha males saying it to each other, and it's a little different because nobody else is hearing it. But the second it's recorded on national television or by news and it can get out, then that person's got to react back, because they've got to look strong for their people, especially in a country like Russia. And it's like, it makes sense. It makes more sense to the logical part is to try to find the key areas where you can work together, so you're not fighting or near a war. And then, like you said, try to slowly correct the human rights issues and the other issues and stuff like that, so you actually are closer to them. Because I mean, look at what we're dealing with China right now. I mean, China we just sent, I think it was like $30 billion. It was like a $30 billion purchase or something like that in weapons and stuff to Taiwan. And we just made the delivery. And then China put together its largest ever war games, live fire drill surrounding the island, actually firing missiles because of that shit. I mean, it's a powder keg over there. And so the last thing, if we can get Russia settled down and we can get Ukraine settled down, we can get Russia kind of on somewhat of our good side. Maybe we can keep them out of the China thing for a while, at least long enough to get something done.
It speaks a lot to the quality of the American people that we are so concerned with Ukraine. Because why are we so concerned with Ukraine, right? Most other countries, I don't see Europe intervening on behalf of anyone anywhere else in the world just to try to achieve peace so people don't die. And I think you're also right about Russia. Russia is a far different society than we live in. They're far more patriarchal, and that's due a consequence to the terrain of Russia being so cold, right? You need a strong kind of centralized force to settle those remote areas. So, yeah, I agree with you there. But I think that on the left, people like to criticize Trump over anything. And that's what I see. Like, if he talks to Putin, he is now a Putin supporter or he's a Putin agent. But if he were to insult Putin, that's, oh my God, Trump's going to start World War III, right? So, I don't know. You can't.
Yeah,
Kind of just have to tune them out at a certain point, because if you really are going to do what's best for the country, then you really can't be subservient to this fickle public opinion. You gotta stick to your guns. I see him doing that with Venezuela as well. So,
Derps Rothschild. His name is Joe St. Clair. He was in the military intelligence. He's not from Saudi Arabia. We were talking about just different stuff there, but as far as Saudi Arabia thing, I think it's like anything else. If you read kind of the comments there, if he hasn't left yet, is the fact that when it comes to Saudi Arabia, it's another one of those things that it's better to have them. It's better to have your enemies close, your friends close, and your enemies closer, and try to be friends with them and get them changing and create so they're not sending necessarily funding. It's easier if you're partnered with them to tell if they're funding terrorists or not, or if they're sending money or not, and to stop that money flow. But if you don't have, and especially when you're trying to take out Tehran or the least Ayatollahs, if you've got Israel, Saudi Arabia, Oman, the UAE, Egypt, if you get Egypt, Jordan, and Libya and Syria to join all into the Arab, accord, then that leaves Iran kind of with nobody to help them. That leaves them all by themselves. And I don't know which X account
I'm trying to figure out. He has a question about Iraq.
I don't know which X account he was talking on, so I don't know if he's. What you mean? I fully respect the idea of the First Amendment. What are you talking about, dude? I mean, it sounds like he's not even an American. I don't know.
Well, Derp would indicate that he might be. He could be interacting. Honestly, I don't know.
It says, "What state in America does this represent?" Oh, this guy is Saudi Arabian. Can we talk about his ideas on Iraq? I would like to hear his opinion. Who is speaking? Who is speaking?
He's not writing. I think it's actually probably a child, because they're spelling the word "seems" with an A.
Or it's somebody who doesn't understand English very well.
Yeah, I was looking at your private messages. I missed the comments. Someone says, until we start printing our own currencies, that's exactly right. Until we end the Fed and get off fiat, all this fraud as well as foreign aid will not stop.
Well, yeah, until currency is unlimited printing and we actually have to balance a budget. Yeah.
Oh, hey, we got a commenter named Kenneth Cadwell 2124. Nick Shirley's video has been debunked. It has not been debunked.
No, it has not. I was gonna say,
I love it. This is what they do. They go in and they will gaslight you and they'll lie to you straight to your face. For all I know, that's probably a Somali person sitting in Minnesota going on that comment.
Well, I'm not going to say that. It's just a Democrat. But I'm sorry. Even the FBI verified that his video and the information given in his video were correct. That's coming straight from the FBI, that the data number that Nick Shirley was giving out actually matched what the FBI had. And so, no, it's not a fake thing. And I'm sorry, but you can tell he was there in the middle of the weekday, in the middle of a week, and it says they're open from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. or 6 p.m. or whatever, but yet nobody's there. Even the ones that people would open the door, there was no children in there. He had one open door, there was like one child in there. I'm sorry, but I've been to then after all this happened, all of a sudden, somehow some 20 children show up at the one daycare first thing in the morning. Well, I'm sorry, I've dropped my kid off at daycare plenty of times, and 20 parents don't show up at once. Maybe 5, 6, whatever. As the 5 are leaving, 5 more come in, but you don't have 20 just all coming at once. And the problem is, though, is that daycare was claiming 99 children, and they're only showing 20. It's not. I haven't read the Constitution. I have a doctorate in law and policy. I've read the Constitution from front to back, top to bottom, side to side. So I have no idea what you're talking about. The first establishment of religion. Okay. The Congress establishment of religion has nothing to do with separation of church and state. That actually goes back to a 19. Did I put it in my debate quotes on? Did I actually put that what year it was? I can't remember if I actually put it in here or not. I'm trying to remember. It goes back to the 1802 letter. Let me see if I can find it in my notes.
I think Burp is trolling you. I don't really know, because why did he bring that up?
Yeah, I don't know either. Where did that come up? Where did separation of church and state even come up from? We weren't even talking about that. But I was trying. Yeah, here it is.
Oh, right.
I'll cover it real quick just because they want to troll us in that way. So, where am I going to? Where's my notes? All right. So, yeah. The idea of a constitutional separation of church and state did not originate in the U.S. Constitution itself. It comes from a later political phrase that was gradually and incorrectly treated as if it were constitutional doctrine. In 1802, Thomas Jefferson's letter to the Danbury Baptists, the phrase that reshaped public understanding appears in an 1802 private letter written by Thomas Jefferson to the Danbury Baptist Association. Jefferson wrote, quoting Jefferson, "I contemplate with sovereign reverence that act of the whole American people, which declared that their legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state." But see, what people don't understand is he was referencing and trying to stop the United States from having like a Church of England, not stating that you can't that you can't teach biblical knowledge in a school, or that you can't hang the 10 Commandments in a school, or that you can't say God bless America or anything like that, because that's not saying that that's not establishing a state religion. That's not the state saying that it accepts that religion. That's just talking. That's history. It's theology. It's a total different story. So there is no separation of church and state in the First Amendment. It doesn't say separation of church and state. It says that they can make no establishment of a religion, establishing a government religion or government-sponsored church. Nothing about that governments can't quote from the Bible, read from the Bible, or hang up a 10 Commandments. Nah, shit. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, or one of the ones that signed the Declaration of Independence. He didn't write the whole thing. He was one of the ones of the writing the Federalist Papers. John Jay, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, Benjamin Franklin didn't put his name in the it was Madison, Jefferson, John Jay, and I forgot the other one. It was in the Federalist Papers. So,
yeah, but I mean, okay, so he's right in the sense that, yes, Thomas Jefferson wrote a part of the Constitution, but he didn't write the whole thing. So this is a great example. I'm going to use George Rothschild as an example, a perfect example of the type of person that's coming out of the U.S. education system today, is that rather than being taught full-fledged history, they're being taught multiple choice. Yes, yes, no, ABC. Who wrote the U.S. Constitution? Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
Anyone with actual knowledge knows that it's more nuanced than that. So,
yeah. Does the U.S. is separation of church and state a constitutional right? Yeah, and they, for some reason, take the answer as yes when it's not. because the Constitution says that the United States, the government itself, cannot establish a government religion, meaning it can't say that, like the Constitution, like President Trump, when he wrote we'll use this one kind of off topic, but when he wrote his executive order stating that the English was the language of the United States. Okay, if he had wrote an executive order saying that Christianity is the religion of the United States and the church, or Catholicism is the church of the United States, that would be unconstitutional. But saying "in God we trust" or "God bless America" has nothing to do with establishing a government religion.
This guy, I think he's trolling you. He says, "No, the American Declaration of Independence is America, not like." I'm not following him. There was one guy earlier. He said, Mr. Smith. He said, "Funny how the parasite party call each other kings and queens while sucking off the welfare state." Okay, I agree with that to some extent, but you know what? We're all kings and queens. You know why? Because the people are sovereign in the United States. We are all kings, and that's the basis of our system. So that is why it's so perverse that they use the term "no kings," right? Like, okay, I don't want a king over me, but am I sovereign over my own life due to, God giving me sovereignty? Yes, absolutely true. So,
the "no kings on the hill" thing is the picking the name "No Kings on the Hill" for the podcast is a play on how idiotic the saying "no kings" or claiming Trump was a king, when literally, if he was a king, you wouldn't have been able to have the rally. I mean, and he would have. And when the federal government, when the Supreme Court just ruled that he couldn't deploy the National Guard to Chicago, he didn't. Now, even though they did technically rule he could deploy the Marines, but I don't know why you'd want the regular Marines sent before the National Guard, but okay. I mean, that's pretty much, and obviously it wasn't a full court hearing. It was just an emergency hearing, so they could still challenge it and send it to the full court panel. I mean, Justice Kavanaugh and Justice whatchamacallit, highly dissented on that. They gave their dissent on it, thinking it was idiotic, pretty much saying it was idiotic.
Yeah, Marines are known for their common sense and not causing things to go.
I'm trying to figure out what I was trying to figure out. Okay, here it is. I'm gonna see if I can get the link to the.
I mean, my best students were Marines, I'll say that, but my crazy students were Marines. So Marines have their time and place, but I'd say maybe domestic protests are not ideal for Marines. But hey, that's what they wanted, right?
Yeah, I'm trying. Oh, here's what I was looking for. Okay, where is my link to the Supreme Court? All right. Nope, it didn't. It expired, I guess. Oh, that's weird.
Kenneth Cadwell says Hamas is a bad terrorist group, but what many of you don't get is that more Palestinians join Hamas every year because of human rights violations Israel's done to them. I don't disagree with that, but I don't condone violence on either side. So I'm not going to pick Israel over Palestine or Hamas over Palestine or either or, right?
Yeah, but I was trying to. I thought I downloaded it, but I guess I didn't. I was trying to find.
I don't care.
I was trying to find my I was trying to find a dissent from the National Guard thing of saying how it was totally went against normal president and was pretty much rewriting the legislation that Congress had acted, saying it says different stuff than it did. And I was trying to find it, but I thought I'd download it. Now I got to look for it again. I thought I'd saved it to my computer, but I guess I didn't. I guess I just had it opened on, and the link for some reason expired that it was connected, that it connected to. But yeah. What, dude? We've never even met in person, really?
I did just ignore this guy.
Yeah, that's a troll. I was gonna say he's trolling because it's like I've never even met him in person.
I guess he's imagining it. Whatever. I got this guy's got some interesting fantasies. Oh, that's pretty funny.
Is it okay? Here it is. I found it. All right. Trump v. Illinois. It's because the link that was there, they moved it. For some reason, they changed the link to they because it was a temporary link because they just posted it from the order that day. So I guess it was a temporary order. I'm trying to get to the dissenting opinion. It wasn't Kavanaugh. He concurred in the judgment. It was now I'm trying to remember it was who the dissent was, but
Could it not be Alito? I would have figured.
yeah, it was Alito and trying to remember who Alito, Jay dissenting with Thomas. That's who it was. It was Thomas and Alito. Okay, so Justice Alito, with whom Justice Thomas joins dissenting. In our adversarial system of adjudication, we follow the principle of party presentation. Clark v. Sweeney, 607 U.S. 2025 per curiam, slip op at 2, quoting United States v. Signeth Smith, 590 U.S. 371, 375, 2020. If a party passes up what seems to us a promising argument, we do not assume the role of advocate. Instead, we normally decide the questions that the parties choose to present. In this case, the court has unnecessarily and unwisely departed from standard practice. It raised an argument that respondents waived below, and it now rules in respondents' favor on that ground. To make matters worse, the court reaches out and expresses tentative views on other highly important issues on which there is no relevant judicial precedent and on which we have received scant briefing and no oral argument because it was an emergency hearing. It wasn't a full hearing. First, the court suggests that the principal statutory provision involved in the case, 10 U.S.C. 124063, contains a restriction that has no grounding in the statutory text, namely that unable with the regular forces to execute the law of the United States actually means unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States for reasons other than the lack of lawful authority to do so. Because so far in previous history, the word unable to meet has never been defined. The court, in effect, adds new language to the text Congress enacted. Second, the court implicitly suggests that 124063 does not constitute an act of Congress within the meaning of that phrase in the Posse Comitatus Act of 1385. That is a surprising conclusion, to say the least. Third, the court expresses the tentative view that the phrase execute the laws of the United States in 124063 does not include protective functions, so that even if the National Guard is properly deployed under that provision, it may not be given the task of preventing potentially lethal attacks on civilian federal law enforcement officers or the takeover or destruction of government facilities. According to the court's apparent reasoning, National Guard members may enforce the immigration laws by, for example, arrest and process aliens, but they may not perform the protective functions for which they are better suited. That, too, is surprising. I'm not going to go through the whole, their dissent's pretty big, but, I mean, you're telling me that it's literally the National Guard, even the Marines, are better suited for protecting, not going and arresting and being a police officer, but that's pretty much what you're saying that they should be doing versus protecting buildings. And, yeah. It was ridiculous. I was trying to figure out how to delete it or.
That's hilarious. I don't know why you think that would be I guess he's homophobic or something for him to be.
He's asking. The guy doesn't even know who Alito is. So yeah, this isn't an American. He's asking Alito who? I mean,
I highly suspect this guy's a Somalian up in Minnesota.
No, he's just a bot or something. But I don't know how to block on this.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it.
I don't know how to block comments.
Maybe don't stick his comments.
Well, I didn't mean to stick it up there, but that's also I don't have any of these comments stuck up in the because I don't. He's not commenting. He's on one of the other X pages. I doubt he's on my X page. He's probably on Native Patriots, or he's probably on the Native Patriots or PPNs, because I don't see him in my chat. So he's doing it from one of those two. But yeah, so I mean that pretty much covers everything there. I mean, yeah, we have got to get to control. Something has got to be done with this fraud. Somebody's got to be punished. Somebody's got to be. The only thing I see happen is what I think is obviously it's going to happen like what usually happens, and that's the fact that Tim Walz is going to find a fall person under him, whether it's a director of one of the agencies or somebody like that. But I mean, there's no way. You can answer this one.
I would have to research that.
I don't remember anybody changing the Posse Comitatus Act.
Possible changes to the Posse Comitatus Act. Let's see. No, I'm just seeing proposals. I don't see any.
Yeah, I don't think there's been any official changes to Posse Comitatus Act in a long time. Since a long time ago, there's been proposals, but I don't remember any ever passing.
There's the strengthening the Posse Comitatus Act of 2020, but it was proposed.
It was proposed, but it didn't pass. Yeah.
Yeah, Congress was split, so I'm not surprised by that. Oh, actually, it was updated in 2021 according to Wikipedia.
Well, I'm not going to go with Wikipedia. I would look at the actual. Yeah. I would.
That's something I would actually want to research before answering.
Yeah, get in the LexisNexis and actually see it. Get in, or at least get into Congress and see if it actually get the bill number. Question. Get the bill number and actually see if the bill number passed and if it was actually passed into law. Because, I mean, just like the fact a lot of people understand is they sit there and say Congress has done nothing this term. But in reality, Congress has passed almost 500 pieces of legislation. It's just only 54 of them has the Senate passed concurring bills to and gotten through to the president. But in reality, I mean, Congress can only pass the bills they pass. Then it's up to the Senate to pass the bills to pass a concurrent piece of legislation in order for it a matching piece of legislation in order for it to go to the president. So if Congress, if Senate doesn't do anything, then it looks like Senate doesn't do its job, it looks like Congress isn't doing its job. I mean, the House isn't doing its job. If the House doesn't do its job, then it looks like even if Senate's doing it, doesn't look like the Senate's doing its job because you don't see anything getting to the president's desk. That's also people have to look is.
Tyrone was discussing the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2022. It looks like which it basically expanded it to include the new individual service components. It looks like. So it wasn't a true updating. It was because obviously the Space Force, Marines, and Air Force were created after the Posse Comitatus Act. So it was adding. They were already included, but it's more specific.
Yeah, so, I got you. It was to get it more updated to account for the new the new branch. Yeah, and it's funny, people always, we don't need a Space Force. Okay, they don't actually have to live on the moon or fly into space to be the Space Force. The Space Force monitors and deals with all of our satellites we know about and satellites we don't know about, and protecting those satellites from foreign adversaries who literally create satellites to destroy our satellites.
Yeah, well, also that people who are conjecturing on like the structure of the military don't really understand that. Within the military, each service component has its own specific function, and there's a reason the Air Force was split off from the Army is because when you have the Air Force underneath the Army's never going to want to, it's never going to be the Air Force getting promoted. So you need generals in those specific fields of expertise.
Yeah. Did you see the last comment? I mean, this, oh my God.
I don't even want to read him anymore.
I mean, it's like Bruin is a judicial branch of government. You have a judicial branch of government, and that is it. You have legislative, judicial, executive. There's no other branch of government. Lord. If that person's an American citizen or a young kid, and that's what they learn in civics, we've seriously got to fix our education system.
We seriously need to fix our education system. If you're not homeschooling or sending your kids to Montessori, they're not even learning to read. I was teaching.
My kids read. We have them read books at home, so we go buy them books every week, physical books, and make them read them. We don't just allow them to read stuff online and do. We allow them to do some like Amazon books and stuff online, but we really try to make them read actual physical books and go through them. Now that they're getting older, my 2 older ones, I need to start making them write me book reports on them so I can see that they're actually truly understanding what they're reading. Because the problem is it's because some people might understand, you might be able to read it, but doesn't mean you actually understand the words you're reading. And because that's what I told my kids. I was like, if you were to read this book I'm reading, I was like, on the Constitution stuff, I was like, half the words you'd have to go pick up a dictionary and look what they mean, because we don't use them anymore.
They don't understand it, and it's like with typing and autocorrect, they don't even know how to spell. And I've noticed, like, I'll use a word. My name on TikTok is Joe Polyglot, and a lot of people conflate that with polygamy or polyamory. I'm like, just because it has the word poly in it isn't, and they don't understand that's a Greek, suffix or prefix. So, I mean, I've been looking into this pretty deeply, and I am deeply concerned because there's at least one generation of young American kids who are essentially operatively illiterate. So it's going to be very, very, they can't, in order to be a functioning citizen, you have to be able to read. So,
oh yeah. I mean, there's these kids today because of Common Core and everybody that are graduating with like a 3.28 GPA from magna cum laude, a summa cum laude, and somehow they can barely read at an 8th grade level or read at all. And it's like, how did you graduate high school without being able to read?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably another deeply existential threat to the way our society operates.
Yeah, this person is okay. Whoever writes a judicial decision, and it doesn't matter who writes the judicial decision, it's randomly picks what Supreme Court justice actually writes it. Sometimes it's the newest judge on the court. They get stuck with writing the decisions. Obviously, the dissenters write their own decisions, but they all put together their stuff, and the final decision that's written, sometimes it's the youngest, sometimes it's it depends on which judge picks to write the full decision. Obviously, the individual judges write their own words and stuff, and they write their dissents, or if they're concurring or dissenting or partially concurring, partially dissenting, all that. But that doesn't make them a judicial branch. That doesn't make them the decision of the court. The court's decision is based on a majority. So
or plurality if there's somebody abstaining.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with whoever writes the actual the opinion or the dissent. Has nothing to do with the case or the government or whatever. Doesn't even. I mean, what's her name? The newest Jackson. I remember there was a decision that she hated, like she dissented the heck out of it, but she still had to write the whole opinion for the court and read the opinion. She had to write the opinion for the court, even though she was in dissent. And it was the opinion of the court was opposite of hers. She still had to write the opinion and then read it because she was the junior on the court. So she got the fun of having to put everybody's stuff together and write the opinion. Really,
it's largely clerks that write these opinions. It's their law clerks that do the legwork.
Well, yeah, the law clerks go out and they get all the stuff. The justice says, "Hey, I want you to get me answers to all the questions I asked from both sides of the view. I want you to go do all this research and find precedent and stuff, and then I want you to argue both sides to me on which should I vote yes or should I vote no? Should I be yay or nay or abstain?" And then they use that to make their decision. Then obviously they'll tell their law clerks, hey, when their law clerks are new, they're going to sit there and they're going to pretty much read out their opinion their wording to the law clerks. Once the law clerks know their word, their voice, then yeah, they write it for them. They'll give that once they're done writing it, they'll give them a copy of it. They'll go through it, check off see if they like the wording, if they if it's the way they want it or make edits, make red line it. They'll go through, make red line it, tell them to change whatever they want in the red lines with the notes, and then they'll finish it. I mean, yeah, that's what law clerks are there for. They do all the research. The justices don't go through. There's no way they could have time to hear all the cases they hear and be in court, plus do all the research you need to figure out all of the cases and stuff, because it's not like they memorize all that case law. I mean, obviously there's some case laws that they memorize because of the fact that they quote that case law so many times and throughout their career. Yes, we know. I said like 20 minutes ago, it's only judicial, legislative, and executive, and you don't have the fourth branch of the administrative agencies, which is why Trump's arguing for the unitary executive, because there is no fourth branch of government. That's the whole point of the unitary theory.
This is, so I'm going to use this guy as an example. Like, okay, if you read the opening line of an American civics textbook, it'll tell you that there are three branches, right? And that's the level of education this person has. And obviously that's the level of education that they're engaging us on. So, I mean, it's impossible. Like, you can't communicate with them because they're not going to understand the jargon or,
Yeah,
like
I mean, we're sitting there literally. Now he's asking what the hell we're even talking about. Like, he doesn't know what the administrative or unitary executive theory is or anything like that.
Yeah. All right.
Well, then obviously this live is over your head.
There was one other topic I can't remember. I wrote it down somewhere. I need to see. I wanted to ask you about.
All right. So
It was something pretty important. I just cannot remember it. Sorry, man. It is kind of getting a little late for me because it's almost 8:00 here. So
I do my lives. Well, not this. It's New Year's Eve, so probably get off here because gonna go do some stuff for New Year's Eve and stuff. But no, I usually do my lives till about 8:39 my time. Just depends on TikTok, anyways, depending on how they go. But all right, well.
I could stick around for another 10 minutes till the hour.
Well, I mean, it's all good. If you don't have the other one, we can just go ahead and end it now. We can just do the hour and 38 minutes. But
yeah,
I want to thank.
I'll look it up and we'll cash it for next week.
All right. Yeah. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to No Kings on the Hill with Dr. Hill, Joe St. Clair. Please check us out every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Eastern. Also, please check out the website that's shown across the screen down there at the bottom. On the homepage, it has all the links to all of our different social media sites, and also it has the all of our current and past shows. So please check them out. Check out my lives daily on TikTok that I do, and I kind of go through review of what I talked about on here or answer any questions. Also, if you have any ideas on what you would like, the topics you'd like us to see us cover in future episodes, please leave us a message there on the website, and we will check. I will check it when I can, and we'll try to get back to it and see if we get it, because we'd like to really start getting the audience engaged and kind of what topics we're covering. So also, please hit that like, share, subscribe, or follow, depending on whether you're watching us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, whichever one it is. I mean, YouTube, not TikTok. Facebook, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, Rumble. Lord, there's too many social media sites that I do lives and separate them on. So we will be back here next Wednesday. I know that here pretty soon we're going to try to start doing some more lives with covering like the 2026 midterms and looking at some of the Republican and Democratic, the people that they're going against, or Republicans and the primary candidates or primary and the Republicans. Try to cover some of that, because obviously the primaries are coming up in 3 months now, roughly. Yeah, because they're in March. Then we got CPAC in April, which the PPN, which is the Patriot Prayer Channel, which is the network that we're on. The show is No Kings on the Hill with Dr. Hill and Joe St. Clair. We are going to be at CPAC with an actual booth doing lives from there and doing broadcasting from CPAC this year. It's in Garland, Texas. So hope to see you there, and y'all have a very good night. And and have a happy new year and hope you enjoy it with your family.